NixOS. It's weird. It's different. It adds a whole nother layer of abstraction onto Linux. And I'm a NixOS noob. And I kind of wanted just to make this video to show you guys that it's relatively approachable. And I just kind of wanted to explain it from a newcomer's perspective and just show you guys like what my main takeaways are. And I also just want to preface this by saying that this information isn't going to be like a tutorial per se. I might kind of misunderstand some of the way things work, such as like Flakes and Home Manager, and like more in-depth things like that I might not understand completely. So don't look at this as like a tutorial. It's more of just me explaining my takeaways from what I've learned thus far. And I just want to give a shout out to Libre Phoenix. He's the resource that I used for most of my initial setup of NixOS and like understanding the basics of Flakes and Home Manager and how to get everything set up. So I'm going to link his channel down below, and I would really recommend his playlist. He has a playlist specifically for NixOS. He walks you through how to set up your initial virtual machine to kind of start learning the basics. And I really can't shout him out enough. If you want to see someone who actually knows like the fundamentals of Nix and has been using it for a long time, go check out his channel. But if you want to watch some idiot ramble who's like brand new and has only been using it for like a month, keep watching. So before I get into the specifics of what NixOS is about, I want to just show off a quick demonstration just so you guys can see the power of NixOS. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hop into a virtual machine. This isn't my actual NixOS system. Right now I'm still on Debian just to show this demonstration. And I'm not going to explain that much of what I'm doing for this. This is just a quick demonstration. You'll see the specifics later. But I'm going to cd into .files. And then I'm going to nvim my configuration.nix. And then right now you can see that my system, it was very bare bones. All I have is a TTY on this VM. And like, that's it. So let's say I wanted to install a program and enable a display server. So I actually have like graphics, and set up a display manager like LightDM and a desktop environment like XFCE. All I need to do is I have these. This is kind of your basic default config. Like I said, I'm not going to go in too much detail about this, but these I just had commented out. I'm going to uncomment them. This is going to enable Xorg, which is our display server. This is going to enable LightDM, which is our display manager. And this is going to enable our desktop environment, which is going to be XFCE. So I'm just enabling those. And just for demonstration, I'm going to add NeoFetch as a program to be installed. I'm going to write and quit, and I just want to clear that. I want to verify for you guys that NeoFetch is not installed right now. So command not found. So now to switch to this, all I need to do is do cd, I need to do nixos-rebuild switch flake dot. Okay, so that is rebuilding. So let's give it 1 second. I might fast forward through this. You know, I'll probably keep this in real time just so you guys can see how quick it is. But let's drink some coffee here. Oh, yeah. Now we'll let it do its thing. Did not give it permissions. But this is relatively quick for if you think about all the things it just did and installed all the XFCE related packages. So now we're going to sudo reboot. Now we're going to let that reload. Super quick. Like, look at how fast that was. And now we should pop into, look at that. We're in XFCE and it installed like, how quick it did that is it installed like a bunch of like XFCE's default applications And yeah, like that was crazy fast, and I just built that. Like I didn't have to specify all the packages, I just enabled some services. And now if we want to verify if I can spell it right, we installed the program. So like that, you just build the system. So it's pretty stinking cool. And I'm going to switch over to my main NixOS system now, not on Debian, on the VM, and then we can jump into more of the specifics about NixOS. Now we are here on my main NixOS system, as you can see, and I kind of just want to give a more in-depth explanation of all of the components of NixOS. So the first thing I want to cover is that NixOS is a declarative operating system. This kind of means that the whole thing is defined in configuration files, and it can be like built from those configuration files. This means that it's highly reproducible, meaning that in theory, all you need is these config files, and you can like build like identical systems with identical configurations. So if you were like a sysadmin or something like that and needed to deploy a bunch of identical computers, it'd be super helpful. So there's like two main files where you configure stuff. So right now I'm in my .files directory. Usually you would be in /etc/NixOS. That's where kind of the default is. Just because I was following this tutorial by Libre Phoenix, he had it set up a bit different. Plus, I kind of like it in my .files more because then I don't need sudo to change everything. So, yeah, it's just a small detail, but usually you'll be in your /NixOS, but I'll be in my .files. So, the main file that you're going to be messing with is configuration.nix. So, this guy was the one we were in earlier. This kind of defines all your basics. Most of this is auto-generated. And when you make changes to this, you just rebuild. Here you can see, here I'm not using XFCE or Xorg. So this is just enabling Xorg for SDDM, which is my display manager. But then I'm actually using Wayland here with Hyperland. And if any of you guys are interested in my current config and my Hyperland and everything, I'm going to make a separate video on that, but right now I'm just covering NixOS. Here's my NVIDIA drivers, audio using Pipewire, fonts, HyperIdle, some gaming stuff. There's a bit of theming stuff in there, environment variables, user stuff. Here's all the programs, Flatpak. And that's about it. And this is me enabling Flakes. So this file is where you'll make most of your changes, and then you'll just write to this file and you'll rebuild the system. So most of everything is declared in this file by default, which is pretty cool. And your other configuration file here is going to be hardware configuration.nix. When you install NixOS, this is auto-generated based off your hardware, so you generally don't touch this. I literally have not touched this once since setting up this config like 3 weeks ago. So you really don't touch that, but it's there, so I figured I'd mention it. And yeah, so by default, those are the two things you're going to kind of be working with. The next main topic I want to get into is Flakes. So some people use Flakes, some people don't. They're optional, and you have to go out of your way to enable them. By default, you are using channels instead of Flakes. So Flakes, for me anyways, I feel like it's kind of unnecessary. I just did it because I was following the tutorial, and I knew that like as my knowledge progressed, I would be able to take advantage of some of the benefits that Flakes provide. But as of right now, I'm really not using those advantages, and I just have Flakes set up because why not? So as you saw in the bottom of my my configuration.nix, you had to enable the Flakes, and then if I can go to my flake here, so nvim flake.nix, and this is pretty basic. This is my second one because I set up the first one before I broke my install, and then just wanted to nuke and pave. This Flakes basically, the difference between channels are what you're using by default, and then Flakes are things that are optionally enabled. The difference between channels and Flakes is that your package versioning and everything is contained within the Flake, within the configuration files. And if you're using a channel, all that stuff is contained on the system install, not the configuration files. So this makes it even more reproducible. So if you distribute a Flake, you can see up here, like I have these inputs, right? So this is pulling from the official Nix Git repo for their packages on 24.05. So the packages know, like, okay, this is where I'm going to grab from. So it's like getting the identical stuff. And then when you build using this Flake, it generates a flake.lock, which I believe this, like, if you look at this, this has like the specifics of like all the package versioning. So you're getting identical versions when you reproduce a system. That is auto-generated. You don't touch your flake.lock. It just kind of goes as you build using your Flake. So that's kind of the benefits of Flakes. Like I said, for me, I could really take it or leave it. I could be using channels right now. And for a single user that isn't trying to like mass deploy systems, I mean, I don't really think it's that necessary. One thing that's cool is like for the inputs, you can put like, I just had NixOS's official package Git repo, but you can like import other people's Flakes. So you can like, if you get someone's dot files and you want to screw around and use their config, it's easy to do that. That would be the only thing that I would potentially do with Flakes, I think, just because I don't want to share my stuff and try other people's stuff. And you can also like, I could also put in the unstable NixOS Git package repo. So I could like have multiple inputs. I could be pulling some packages from the unstable, some from the stable. And I could even put in like random Git repos, like for Hyperland or something like that, if I wanted to pull directly from that. So it's kind of cool, but I'm not really utilizing the benefits right now. And then other than that, as you saw in that demonstration, it's all done based off building the system. So the main commands are, so I'm in my dot files. If you're just using like the default setup where you have these, you would make changes to your configuration.nix, and then you would run, let's say you added a program, right? Then you would run this command. You'd do sudo NixOS rebuild switch. That command by default is going to look in your /etc/NixOS, and it's going to rebuild based off that config file. And that will like install the packages, make any changes you want to make. And most of the time you can do that without rebooting. But if you're doing something drastic, like I was like installing the display server, display manager, desktop environment, then you probably want to reboot afterwards. And each time you do that, it builds, it creates a new generation. So that allows you to revert to old generations in case you screw something up. The rollback is really helpful. And I believe that works differently if you have Flakes enabled, but I don't know the exact specifics on that. Now, if you're using a Flake, like I am, every time you do it, like you saw in the demonstration, you would do sudo NixOS rebuild switch -- flake, and then here you specify where your Flake is located. So for me, since I'm in my dot files where the Flake is, I would just do that. But like I could do something like /dot files. So yeah, you would do sudo NixOS rebuild switch -- flake, and then you'd specify the path to your Flake. That does the same thing, but it incorporates the Flake and uses that as well. And like I said, then you can roll back, you can look at your generations. When you boot, when you're using Flakes and you have multiple generations, it gives you like a whole list of generations to choose from if you need to roll back. The last thing I wanted to touch on was package management. So if I open a browser here, and I navigate to mynixos.com, this is really helpful and you can see all the packages that are available here. So let's say I wanted to install Prism Launcher. I'll just type Prism. Let's see if I need a space. Yep. Okay, so this is a launcher for Minecraft. If I wanted to install this, I can, this is where I like get the name, whatnot. Also, on these, you can get like options and services. This search, you can kind of find anything. There is a way to search for this in the CLI as well, but I tend to just use this because it's a simple GUI. I don't know. But yeah, you can basically find anything you need from this. You add it to your, I was using it as system packages in my config when you saw the demonstration, but you can also install them per user. So that's kind of how packages work there. And as far as package availability went for me, it was pretty well. The only packages that I had issues with were the Minecraft package, believe it or not. That's why I used the Prism Launcher, but then I found that the Prism Launcher was actually cooler. This was broken, so it wouldn't let me install it. I tried to I added a flag that said like allow broken packages, but that flag, it worked, I installed it, but then yeah, sure enough, the package was broken, and it kind of worked, but then like whenever I'd try to download a new version, it wouldn't. So yeah, it's marked broken for a reason, believe it or not. I'm an idiot. So that was the only package I found that was broken. And then Joplin, which is my note-taking application that I love, it was not a updated enough version in the official Nix repo to allow for syncing to my Nextcloud, and I kind of need that. So I enabled the Flatpaks and downloaded the Flatpak instead. And yeah, it needed a higher version than this to allow syncing. And for Flatpaks, it's pretty simple to enable those. You saw that in my config earlier. But the only thing is then you don't really, to my understanding, you don't define those Flatpaks in the config. You would just do like Flatpak. Okay, wrong keybind. You would just do Flatpak install, and then you just kind of manage it like that. So it's less declarative, which kind of sucks, but I only use Flatpaks on if I like apps. That's like the only Flatpak I have installed in its dependencies. So package availability was pretty good, I would say. And then the last topic I want to touch on is another optional feature, kind of like how Flakes is optional. This is Home Manager. So if I cd into my dot files and nvim into my home.nix, this is another optional feature here, and it allows you to manage your local files, so not on a system level. This is all commented out. So this is the only thing I'm really doing, is like here. So you can see this is how I'm kind of managing my config files for specific programs. Here's some theming stuff. Cursor, so yeah, more theming. Yeah, so the main thing I'm using it for is this. So the cool thing about Home Manager is that, so it's configurable via this home.nix file, and it basically manages all your local files. So the main benefit that I'm using this for is for managing my config files for specific programs. This is arguable if it's, I mean, it's cool, but is it really necessary? Not really. This basically gives me a centralized place to manage all my dot files. So before, I would kind of remember like, okay, so my kitty config, which is my terminal, is in .config/kitty/kitty.conf. My nvim config is in .config/nvim. Like my hyperland stuff. So like I would have to kind of remember where all this is. Using Home Manager, I can go directly to this file, and then I can, using this home.file option, I can source the path. So I'm telling it, okay, using this option, home.file, this is where I want you to place this config file, right? So this is the actual path that the program's going to look for. And then I want you to source it from my local location where I have everything. So it's going to take this file here, which I have on the system, and it's going to put it in this directory. And it does that basically just by doing a symlink. The only annoying thing about that is that every time I make a change to my local file, which is this guy, then I have to run a command to update that symlink so the application recognizes it. So for demonstration, let's say I wanted to change my Hyperland config. And just to explain, so the local files aren't actually in their location, that the default location that the program's looking for. They're in, I have them all with my dot files here, so they're all in one place. So like hyper there, you can see ls hyper. You can see there's my hyperland.conf. And then it's also in where it's actually supposed to be, where the Hyperland's going to look for it. So in .config hyper, you can see right there, you can see the way it's coloring it. The way my theme works, that color means that it's a symlink. So that's symlink to that. So if I made any changes in the one that's in my .dot files, then I would need to run this command. Home manager switch. You would just run that if you weren't using Flakes, but because I'm using Flakes, I would do this and specify the path. And that just updates the symlink. So it kind of gives you a place to manage all your configuration files in one specific place. There's lots of other benefits to Home Manager. This is the only one I'm kind of using it right now is for my dot files. But it's pretty cool. And I know you can use things like GNU Sto and stuff like that to manage your dot files, but I haven't looked into that, and this was kind of fun to play with. So, yeah. And that's kind of the main things about NixOS. I kind of went over all the basics there, kind of the main takeaways that I've gotten thus far. And my conclusion, I would say, is that NixOS I wouldn't just recommend NixOS to a new user per se. Like, it adds, Linux already is a big step, and this adds a whole nother layer of abstraction to it, using like pulling stuff from the Nix store, and like, I don't, it's kind of complicated, but if you're a nerd, it's really fun to mess around with, I'd say. And so I wouldn't recommend it to new users, but it's really fun to play with. It took me I probably played around with the VM for like 1 week to learn stuff. And then from that, I went to actually putting this on bare metal. I've been running this system for about 3 weeks, give or take. And I have to say I like it, but I feel like it's kind of overkill for my use case being a single user. And the question is, like, is NixOS going to be my new home? Right now, I'm migrating off Debian to NixOS to give it a shot. I want to play around with it for a while longer and fully make the switch. I've basically been living on this. The drive's small, so I just need to clone over my Debian one now. And I'm going to give it a shot, but I'm going to make a separate video showing my full config and talking about if it's going to be my new home or not. But I think for right now, you saw I was using Hyperland. I might try out KDE just to give it a shot. Just because NixOS is so modular, it's easy for me to enable and disable, switch stuff out like that. I might as well try it while I'm on Nix. And I would recommend trying NixOS because I'm kind of an idiot. I'm still new to Linux. It's only been about a year on Linux, and I managed to figure it out. So I'd recommend this to any like Linux kind of novices, and just not if you're brand new and you've only used like desktop environments and stuff like that. But if you guys have made it all the way through this video, I really appreciate it. I've kind of rambled a lot and been all over the place, but I feel like I hit the main points that I wanted to hit here. And if you guys have any experience or recommendations about NixOS, please comment them below. I love reading your guys' comments. My last couple of videos, the comment section has been like crazy. I've got a lot of advice, and I love hearing from you guys. So thanks for watching, and peace out.